Let's settle in. The fire is low, the shadows stretch long across the floor, and outside, the wind brushes the windows like a hand searching for a way in. I want to take you somewhere tonight, to a place that was once called the center of the world. It's a kingdom most have never heard of, yet its ships sailed to Rome, to India, to Arabia. It struck gold into coins that bore its own proud name. And then, almost without warning, it slipped out of history's grasp. This is the story of Aksum, the forgotten kingdom that once ruled the crossroads of Africa and the world. Imagine the highlands of what is now northern Ethiopia and Eritrea, mountains rising like ancient ramparts, valleys cut deep and green, and the air so thin it makes you feel lightheaded, as if you've stepped closer to the realm of the gods. In the first centuries of the Common Era, this land was alive with power and ambition. Aksum's capital city stood like a jewel in the mountains, its streets lined with palaces of stone, and at its heart, towering monolithic obelisks, some as tall as a 15-story building, carved from single pieces of granite. These weren't mere markers, they were statements, unshakable declarations that this was no small tribal kingdom, but an empire to be reckoned with. And it was. Aksum's fleets moved across the Red Sea like a tide, carrying ivory, gold, frankincense, exotic animal skins, and perhaps the most coveted luxury of all, access to the markets of Africa's interior. Greek merchants, Roman senators, and Indian traders all knew the name Aksum. To the north lay Egypt and the Mediterranean, to the east the Arabian Peninsula, to the south the rich lands along the Nile, and to the west the African heartland. From its perch, Aksum looked out at the known world and saw it all within reach. But there's more to Aksum than trade and stone. This was a kingdom whose rulers minted coins of pure gold, one of the first African states to do so, stamped with images of their kings on one side, and on the other, the emblem of the state's faith. For centuries, those coins bore the crescent and disk of the old South Arabian gods, symbols of cosmic balance and divine order. Then, in the 4th century, something changed. Under King Ezana, Aksum converted to Christianity, making it one of the very first nations in the world to adopt the faith officially, even before much of Europe. Imagine it. While northern barbarians were still battering the gates of Rome, church bells rang in the highlands of Africa. But the deeper you look, the more Aksum seems to live in the space between the historical and the legendary. Ancient inscriptions tell of its armies crossing the Red Sea to conquer parts of Yemen, of battles fought under the scorching Arabian sun, and of kings who called themselves King of Kings, not as boast, but as birthright. Some stories even weave Aksum into biblical threads, claiming it was the final resting place of the Ark of the Covenant, guarded still today in the sacred city of Aksum, hidden from every eye except that of a single appointed guardian. Is it truth? Is it faith? Or is it the kind of legend a people tell to bind themselves to eternity? And yet, for all its power, Aksum's decline came quietly, almost like a shadow spreading at dusk. The Red Sea trade route shifted. The rise of Islam in the 7th century brought new economic patterns and alliances, and Aksum's once mighty fleets found themselves hemmed in by rivals. The fertile highlands suffered from overuse, forests were cut down, and the delicate balance between land and life began to tilt. In time, the great stone stelae stood watch over streets gone empty, their carved surfaces weathered by wind and rain. What's strange is that Aksum did not fall in a single cataclysm. No Pompeii-like destruction, no Genghis Khan sweeping in to burn it to the ground. It simply ebbed away. The center shifted, the court moved, and the city that had once looked out at the whole world became a place forgotten by it. And so Aksum's grandeur was left to linger in the ruins, the massive obelisks casting their shadows over silent fields, the fragments of once glorious palaces half buried in dust. Archaeologists began to rediscover Aksum in the late 19th and 20th centuries, unearthing not just stones but the bones of an empire. Pottery inscribed in ancient Ge'ez script, coins that still gleamed after 1,500 years, and underground tombs where the dead had been laid to rest, with treasures meant to follow them into the afterlife. And with each discovery, the old question stirred anew. How did Aksum rise so high, so fast? Why did it fade without a great war or a deadly plague? And how much of its legacy still hides, waiting beneath the soil? The theories are as varied as the scholars who study them. Some say it was environmental collapse, centuries of farming on the steep highland slopes eventually stripping the soil bare, making it harder to feed its people. Others point to climate change, with shifting rainfall patterns drying rivers and starving crops. There are those who see geopolitics as the culprit. Aksum's reliance on Red Sea trade made it vulnerable when Arab Muslim powers took control of the shipping lanes, cutting off its lifeblood. And still others wonder if the kingdom simply transformed, its power recentered inland, its capital relocated, leaving the original city to wither without ever truly falling. Then there are the legends, those who whisper that Aksum was not abandoned by chance, but because it still guards a secret. The Ark of the Covenant is the most famous of these tales, said to be kept in the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion, never shown to the world. If true, it would mean Aksum's significance is not just historical, but spiritual, a city whose purpose outlasted its empire. When you stand among Aksum's ruins today, you can feel the weight of that ambiguity. The sun burns high over the plateau, cicadas hum in the grass, and the stones radiate a heat that feels as old as the earth. The obelisks rise against the sky, their faces carved with false doors and windows, portals perhaps for the spirits of the dead to pass into the next world. You can almost hear the clang of metal as ships unloaded their goods, the murmur of traders haggling in a dozen languages, the distant call to prayer from a church long turned to dust. And that's the thing about forgotten kingdoms. They are never entirely gone. They remain in the stones, in the stories, in the way the land itself seems to remember. Aksum may have faded from the maps, but it didn't fade from history's undercurrent. It waits there, in the edges of our awareness, reminding us that empires rise, empires fall, and even the mightiest can be lost to the passage of time, not in a blaze, but in a sigh. So tonight, as we close the book on Aksum's story, I leave you with this thought. Perhaps the greatest mystery is not how such kingdoms vanish, but how they live on in ways we cannot measure. In legend, in faith, in the silence of the ruins under the Ethiopian sun. Thank you for walking with me into the past. Now, I'll ask you, what other great empires do you think might be sleeping beneath our feet, waiting for us to find them again? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, please like, comment, and share. It truly helps keep these stories alive.